Who don't know the basics of it before I kind of go into this. Islamo-Fascism Week is happening October 22nd to the 26th, and it's what David Horowitz is dubbing the largest conservative protest on college campuses. And so basically I wanted to get a little bit into what the situation is with a lot of the attacks on critical thought and dissent are on campuses, sort of a little bit of a background to what this is culminating in. And it's focused on Islamo-Fascism Awareness Week, but there's a real point of trying to understand this in the context of what's going on in the 7-year governments and what we've been talking about throughout this conference and stuff like that. So one thing in doing some research for the presentation is I was thinking back, a lot of people here who are students or had the opportunity to go to college, a lot of it, particularly for myself, like the first time I went to school, it was very much a different situation where people actually discussed things other than, like bullshit, drugs, whatever people are talking about in high school. But, this is sort of a different situation where people were more, there was this one class, Intellectual Heritage, that I took, and English 40, right? And, there were basically classes that you were able to take where you got opened up to a lot of different ways of thinking that is overwhelmingly cut out of the rest of society and stuff like that. And through that process, it was very transformative for me, but I think most people who go to school, regardless of whether they become activists or whatever, and in looking up some of the stuff on Horowitz, they do have this, a lot of the attacks are kind of focusing up on Columbia University, UCLA, and where it's getting much more acute. But he did write this article about focusing on those two classes that I took at Temple University, which I thought was kind of interesting, where he basically goes on this whole rant about intellectual heritage, this class, where you learn about Darwin and Freud and Marx, but you don't learn anything about Adam Smith, who, is a big founder of capitalism or something, and things like that. And then he goes on through this other thing, where it says about this class, English 40, it says, its goal is to indoctrinate students in radical views on gender and to a lesser extent on race. The first-year writing program handbook clearly states English 40 focuses on writing within a single theme, gender. From the perspective of academic freedom, there are two things strikingly wrong with this course, which is required of all Temple students. The first is that it is unprofessional. English teachers are not experts in the sociology of gender or race. And then later on he goes through this whole rant about how, actually the year I had the class, it says that it was required for students to read Lies My Teacher Told Me by James Lowen. And it says, this book is a radical diatribe against the United States. So I think that there's three real central things that are extremely dangerous and wrong, even with just those things that I read. One is that you did have to learn about Adam Smith in the class. I remember learning about it. So it's just a bald-faced lie, which is what is in this part. Secondly, this thing about you can't teach things outside of whatever particular class that you're taking is extremely dangerous for anyone that's trying to learn anything or is part of the education system. It's basically saying that if you're not in a political theory, political science class, then you can't bring politics into whatever class that may be. And that is extremely dangerous just in general for society, for people being able to learn anything. But also, it's giving them a major green light to go up against any kind of professor who brings in what the fuck is going on in society right now. And then that's some of what we're gonna, the rhetoric that is surrounding some of this Islamo-Fascism Awareness Week. But then it gets to a different level. About 2006 or whatever, there's this thing that says, This was in the Temple newspaper. It says, state lawmakers came to Temple last week to continue their investigation of alleged liberal political bias at college campuses in Pennsylvania. The Select Committee on Academic Freedom in Higher Education, a body created by House Resolution 177, conducted 2 days of public hearings in the Student Center. The committee is charged with examining this law, and the authors call the imposition of ideological orthodoxy at Pennsylvania institutions of higher education. Lawmakers heard statements from the president of the university, faculty members, and leading national voices, including David Horowitz, a conservative activist. Horowitz went on to condemn the university's intellectual heritage class, the first-year writing and summer reading programs, for their ideological agenda. So this isn't just like this dude who's crazy, who's writing things on his website. There's actual laws that were produced that forced the university president and a university for 2 days to be interrogated by this guy about a class that he obviously lied about, right? And this is not just, this is the lawmakers. Again, this is, I'll repeat it, this is a resolution created in the House. So it's not, this is up in the whole government. It's not just sole people, right? This is extremely dangerous, and that's, one thing. And then it gets up to a different level, which is more leading to some of the stuff with Islamo-Fascism Awareness Week, is who was the senator at the time of when this was happening in Pennsylvania? Santorum. Rick Santorum, who is a leading voice in Islamo-Fascism Awareness Week. He'll be speaking at Temple and UPenn. And who is this person who is all crazed and upset about Islamo-Fascism Awareness Week? 3 very quick quotes that I think pretty much explains it all. And most people who read this guy know about how he's compared homosexuality to bestiality. But along with that, Santorum says, I have a problem with homosexual acts, as I would with acts of other acts outside traditional heterosexual relationships. Rick Santorum on women's rights. Abortion is barbaric and legal infanticide. Santorum voted against infanticide. Santorum has voted against the morning after pill and classified it, quote, dangerous. Santorum on his poor environmental track record says the environment is of little consequences in God's grand plan. Nowhere in the Bible does it say that America will be here 100 years from now. So this is a guy who's a senator within Pennsylvania who is leading one of the largest conservative protests in basically, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and this guy and this person, Horowitz, has the ability to shut down campuses for 2 days and interrogate and grill people over very appropriate, normal educational classes that most people take in this country. And I think that part of the thing is, I kind of went into the example of what happened at Temple in Pennsylvania as one particular example, but this is happening all around the country, okay? Like I was saying in the breakout meeting that we had before yesterday, in the past 2 months, Antioch, a campus that is known as a liberal bastion, which has been around since the 1800s, was shut down. Okay? Norman Finkelstein, who's a professor who has exposed a lot about the crimes that Israel is committing against Palestine and the use of the Holocaust to justify those crimes, was not just denied tenure, but banned from campus. So he couldn't even, we had to have students trying to escort him onto campus because he was banned from campus. You have Ward Churchill, who was also fired this summer, like Finkelstein, for political reasons, a big thing with him is that he was fired as well. It was a very precedent-setting thing, and this is a person who is it's not like Ward Churchill got famous all of a sudden because of all what was happening. This guy is a scholar that was a pioneer in ethnic studies and bringing out the crimes of this system against Native American people.